First, we now take you into this very important discussion. Now, former Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, alleges that the department is, making sure that he doesn't see his family, which doesn't really speak well. We followed the conversation. We saw what happened with Malami's arrest. We had money laundering, and then we now had financing terrorism. This is quite a sad one because this is a man that was put on a very high pedestal, and people are talking, how is this case going to end? We're going to have a guest join us this morning for this very, very important conversation. He's going to bring us more insights on what really happened. My guest, I don't know if he's on. Yes, sir, can you hear me? He joins us. My guest, can you hear me? Okay, good morning, sir. How are you doing?
I'm very much fine. Good morning.
Nice to have you on the show. We're talking about this whole Malami issue, and yes, first of all, thank you for joining us, Mr. Dixon. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, to speak on this important conversation. We all saw what happened. We saw the arrest. We first looked at what happened with the money laundering, and then we hear such a big allegation of financing terrorism. And a lot of people are looking at this particular issue to see how it ends, because this is a man that was put on a very high pedestal. This is a man that was above criticism. This is a former Attorney General, a person that presides on justice. So having us have this kind of allegations that, terrorism, financing, and also money laundering, what does this speak of our leaders? And also, he said that this is politically motivated. I just want you to take us through, these questions. But first of all, what does this speak, of a person of that pedigree?
Oh, fantastic. Very, very embarrassing when I heard about the news. And first of all, I wasn't surprised, because I also strongly believe that what is happening in Nigeria has a political tone, has a political motivations. Because we cannot have a country where terrorists are bedeviling us from all nooks and crannies of Nigeria and nothing is being done about it. During the president's former administration, President Buhari, we saw a lot of insecurity. Fulani herdsmen attacks every blessed day all over the country, and how they, migrated from Mystique, carrying herdsmen to AK-47, carrying herdsmen is also a very, very disturbing situation. And how did they get the arms they are using to kill the farmer, to kill the Nigerian people, to adopt the Nigerian people? I'm not trying to be ethnocentric here, but I'm trying to, bring us to speed how these guys migrated from a stick welding, herdsmen to AK-47 Kalashin, and some deadly weapons. And for me, I heard about the arrest of Malami, and also want to let us understand that terrorism financing allegation is not an allegation where you say an accused is presumed innocent until proven guilty. I agree from a legal perspective. It's a dangerous allegation, very, very dangerous allegation. It is finally, set free or maybe not found guilty. His image has been tainted globally. But I strongly believe the DSS will not go after him just like that without having one or two pieces of intelligence about his involvement in terrorism. I know the capability and capacity of the Nigerian Department of State Services. So, it's a very sensitive department, and they won't just go after somebody or lay an allegation of terrorism to a person of such caliber. If that truly is the truth, I tell you, it's a disappointment and also an abuse on public office, and also the Nigerian government should start looking at, vetting professionals, no matter how highly placed, before placing them into authority, placing them into various departments to head the affairs of Nigeria. This is a disturbing and embarrassing situation for the Nigerian states.
Mr. Shomi.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. You've given us a very good submission on this. How do you feel about his trial? We had issues with trying people who are alleged to be sponsors of terrorism. Do you think that this is the beginning of the government's efforts, to deal with the issue of sponsors of terrorism? In the past, we've had a hit list from UAE, and then we did nothing. So what do you feel about, or how do you feel about the current efforts, tackling this issue of sponsorship from the top, bearing in mind that a former minister has also been alleged to be involved in this Malami issue?
Fantastic question, and I also want to use this medium to appreciate the government, the present government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You see, this is a very tough game or a very tough match. I had your discussion about the Nigeria-Morocco match. It was a very tough match, but this very issue happening is a very tough issue, and I really appreciate the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces for taking the bull by the horn. Nobody is above the law of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, no matter how highly placed. Since 1999, this is the first time I'm seeing an administration, going all out, to deal with sponsors and financiers of terrorism. Because for you to finance terrorism, it's not a day game, it's not a joke. It involves billions of dollars, it involves billions of naira. That's why when you look at the hierarchy and command structure of terrorism globally, the head of affairs are always prominent people of high reputation that decides to, go against their state. For me, I see this as a war against the Nigerian people if President of Malami is truly involved in sponsoring this terrorist act or whatever has been brought against him by the DSS, in exception of money laundering. Terrorism is not a joke. So for me, I strongly believe that this administration is all out to go after these guys, and they should keep the momentum, because in the past 16 years, Nigeria has been bedeviled with spirit of insecurity, banditry, Boko Haram. Have we set up a board of inquiry to ascertain or to, take us into, the foundation? Who were the founders? Who were the sponsors? Who were the father of this terrorism? I understand that Mohammed has been killed many years ago, but there is a sustainable process in place, which I strongly believe some people are using the funds, the money, the wealth, the resources of the government of Nigeria, of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to sponsor an enemy of the state against its own people. This is an act of animal behavior. So for me, this government should maintain this momentum, and also I will advise the government or the National Assembly to look at passing a bill to ensure that the DSS are, they are a standalone organization. Let them start going all out against the enemy of the state and ensure that they start picking most of these deadly guys, that has caused us shame, global shame. If you look at the Global Terrorism Index from all perspectives, Nigeria is the third most dangerous country in the world, and also the 10th most affected terrorism state in the world from 2023-2024 Global Terrorism Index. So it's not good at all for us. When you travel around the world, you see what is happening, development is happening, but we have leaders who are using the resources of the country against some people. It's an act of animal behavior, and I strongly believe that this administration should not relent, and it shouldn't be a form of selective justice or whatever the case may be. Whatever is involved, even if they are from the same party, APC or APD, or whatever party, the president should give the DSS a marching order to start fetching sponsors of terrorism out. It's going to be a form of deterrence measures and deterrence mechanism to stop would-be sponsors in the next administration or whatever time or next some other time to come.
Absolutely. But during his tenure, former AGF Abubakar Malami said that there should be no impunity and that there has to be transparency in fighting against terror and even in the financiers. But regarding one of the reasons why the DSS is seeking to hold him even in prison to prolong the trial is saying that one line of inquiry reportedly involves how Nigeria handled the 2021 UAE list of alleged terror financiers during Malami's tenure. So I'm wondering, how significant do you consider this in terms of international cooperation and Nigeria's obligation under global anti-terror financing protocols? Do you feel that at one point trust had been lost, between Nigeria and the Committee of Nations when it comes to terrorism, and counterterrorism, trial, plus or as against what is happening, currently? Do you feel that we are earning that trust internationally or globally? Fantastic
and intelligent question. Thank you very much for that. You see, we've lost trust from the international community. I belong to a security network globally, and I understand and I see what they talk about Nigeria. I've been in London for a very long time now, since December, and each time I get into Uber and I'm trying to discuss with the drivers, and I say from Nigeria, I say, oh, terror country, yeah, hey, your people, killing your people, hey, killing. It's really bringing up let's say it's a state of shame. We're in a state of shame, and I strongly believe we'll get out of this. But for United Arab Emirates to send a list, I have discussed this on various forums.
So you just quickly hold You just quickly hold your thoughts for me. Hold your thoughts for me there. We'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, we...
Thank you very much. So for United Arab Emirates to send us some list of terrorism sponsors, and we just feel like they've sent us some list of guys that failed JAMB questions, or maybe some list of guys that didn't make it to university. It is so embarrassing, because when that list came on board, I vividly remembered I made over 40 appearances on various platforms, both in Nigeria and globally, on BBC and other international platforms. And we were asking this question, what is the Nigerian government doing about it? Everybody went silent. And it was in this very administration we started hearing about, we started hearing stories about, prosecuting those criminal elements or those guys that are sponsoring terrorism. For me, I think it's going to lose international trust, because intelligence sharing is a very sensitive component in a given nation. Any country that wants to survive survives through intelligence. And intelligence is the bedrock of the survival of any given nation or any country that want to be great. So if you don't appreciate intelligence, something new, what intelligence simply implies that something new, maybe what you don't know, information you don't have, and I give it to you, is called intelligence. So if the Nigerian government did not appreciate such intelligence from the UAE, they will not share any intelligence stuff anymore, and they will see us as a country of joke. But for me, that list that was shared should be revisited, which I strongly believe they've started prosecuting them. And also understand, as of last year when I spoke on channels, I was meant to understand that they're prosecuting these guys secretly, secret trial. How do you try them secretly? You need to name and shame them. So let's start looking at naming and shaming these people, so that it will be a form of, psychological deterrence to would-be sponsors of terrorism.
Of course. Of course, during the newspaper review, we're just speaking about calling the names of these people, because at the end of the day, it seems like we're getting the people that are working for them, but we're not getting the main people that are financing them, because we talk about some of the ammunitions that they hold, where did they get the money to get it from? But let me come to you on this one. You were speaking about trust, which is very important. Malami is not the first person that holds a very, very crucial, role that is now being prosecuted. Yesterday, we're talking about Dizani as well. I want to speak about the fact that what is it with our leaders? I can mention names. We have so many leaders that, it's either they're in power, they're prosecuting them, or they come out of power, they're prosecuting them. Like, it's either one thing or the other. And then people now begin to worry that what is it with our leaders when it comes to just leading right and doing the right thing? Do they forget legacy when they get into power? What is it with our leaders?
Lack of honor, they fail to understand that they will not live till eternity. Some of them strongly believe they will live till eternity. And when I see some leaders, embezzling the funds of Nigeria, moving the funds of the people, the country, to another country to invest, it's an act of animal behavior. It's madness, total madness. It's a shame. Here in London, for the past 2 months, I kept asking my wife and my daughter, I said, what is the problem? What's wrong with our leaders? We saw a lot of development going on, underground train stations, a lot of magic. And I tend to worry and say, if people are given the opportunity to serve, they should start with honor and dignity, because it's an opportunity. It's not an opportunity for you to embezzle the wealth of the people. It's not an opportunity to make your people suffer. It's not an opportunity for you to smuggle the wealth of the people for you, yourself, your family, your children, and every other person, because it's happening all over the country. We've seen political leaders embezzling our money. We've seen prosecution from the EFCC. We've seen a lot of them being sent to jail. That simply implies that there's no love for nation. I would strongly believe, I would strongly advise that the Nigerian government should start looking at the death penalty for people who are, trusted with the aim of affairs to govern our people, and any persons that think that they will come to power and move the weight of the Nigerian people and allow our people to suffer, no proper infrastructure, no good roads, no better education for our people, for our children. I tell you, such kind of people is an enemy of the state. Not even, in fact, it's even worse than terrorists, than a terrorist.
Exactly.
If you're a leader and you are embezzling in front of the people, you are worse than a terrorist. So we should start seeing and designating them as persons of particular concern.
But quickly, let me just butt in here quickly. A lot of people are worried about how this particular Malami case will end. It's good to see that nobody is above the law. That this happened a long time, but right now they're revisiting it to make sure that justice is served. But a lot of Nigerians are worried that oftentimes we hear a lot of prosecutions like this, but after some time, it just goes down the drill. And people are worried that this case is a very, very crucial case, just knowing that this is a former Attorney General. If we do not handle this case well, it's going to set a bad precedent for us.
I agree. It's going to set a bad precedent. Excellent question. Because, when it comes to investigation, there are 3 processes when it comes to investigation. We have, when allegation is received, the first thing you do, you carry out you open an investigation. After that, carry out follow-up investigation and also a conclusive investigation. Presently, I think the DSS are, carrying out what we classify as follow-up investigation, and at the end of the day, after gathering the information and evidence against him, then the investigation will come to an end, and also the paper will come to a close. Then you can prosecute. But for me, I think over the time we've seen cases like this, of some high-profile personality. Once they cross carpet into another political party, this situation tends to, die off. That is a very bad precedent, like you rightly talk about. When we talk about precedents, we shouldn't see it as maybe Malami as a case study. We should start looking at it as political office holder as a case study, where someone who will embezzle funds as a governor, the next thing you see, he camp into another party and nothing is being done. I've seen a lot of political leaders in Nigeria, political leaders would say that once you cross to our party, your sins have been forgiven. Those are criminal statements. Those statements, it's a crime against the state. So for me, my sister, I think we should hold on for the DSS, and also advise the DSS and also the Nigerian government to televise the hearing of Malami on the area of specific area of terrorism financing. This should be televised. They should televise it live so that the world will see, and also it's going to pass a form of message to some other people that are trying to sponsor terrorism.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, all right, please.
Terrorism is no longer country specific. It's now something that some people would describe as across the border conflicts. Moves from one place to the other. We've seen the impact in Nigeria, which actually involves Niger Republic, Cameroon, Chad. We know that despite the problem between Niger Republic and ECOWAS states, we also know that there seems to be a measure of cooperation going on, right there. What do you see, or how do you see the role of the international community, particularly in relation to the flow of funds to weapons suppliers? Because we do not manufacture these AK-47 and these sophisticated weapons in Africa. So what role, how do you see the international community helping us to stem the flow of funds or the flow of weapons, back down to our own country?
It's not meant for them to see the stop of, inflow of small arms and large weapons coming into the Nigerian state. It's left for us as a country to protect our territorial integrity. It's also left for us as a country to protect our national borders, because what most of these transnational criminals and transnational terrorist gangs do is that they capitalize on the vulnerable state of our borderline. A borderless country is a no country. When Donald Trump was fighting for the border security of his people, he had the support of his people. So for me, I think this very administration, what we should start looking beyond politics, because everything in my country, Nigeria, so sad has been politicized. When an administration is trying to do something, you try to look for the weak point, or sometimes perhaps some people might want the administration to fail. If any given administration fail, we all fail. So we need to support this administration in this fight. And what I would advise the present federal government is that they should start looking at border security, because even if we want to rely on international cooperation, as a country, we only the duty of care to protect our people. And in doing this, a borderless country is a no country. So we should start looking at border security. It's not possible for us to fence our national borders. Looking at the square meters of the Nigerian space, about 923 square kilometers, we can have a borderless fencing, where you have used technology to protect our national borders, to cite, movement of some criminal gangs. So what they do is that they capitalize on this borderline vulnerability. Like some time ago, the Nigerian immigration stated very clearly that there are about 1,300, illegal routes. Most of these criminals, use this to smuggle arms and ammunition. So if our border line remains porous, I tell you that no matter the security strategy you put in place, you're not going to excel in the area of security. So border security must be taken as a point of necessity, as of now. It's that we should set up a board, to see how we can protect our national borders. So that while the Nigerian immigration, the Nigerian police, the military, the DSS are doing their fantastic job, then border security can also cut off,
of course,
these criminal elements trying to capitalize on that vulnerable state. Then,
Thank you.
Let me also advise as well.
Yeah. We
need to also look at the internal threat, because what is bedeviling us is classified as an internal threat. There is an Arabian proverb that says that it is better for you to have 1,000 enemy outside than an internal threat. What is bedeviling us as a country is the enemy within. We need to start looking at the enemy within and flush them out from the system, from the military, the police, the DSS, flush all the enemy within, so that Nigeria will have good leaders
Thank
that
you
will think
so
for
much.
the people, for the state, and for the country.
Of course, I love your passion. Thank you so much, Mr. Dixon. Thank you for joining us this morning. It's very important that, you know, we just keep the people of Nigeria safe. We love your insights. Thank you very much. I do have a fantastic day ahead. Thank you.